And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Probably not. Roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SPD off. Bring in SPD off. Off. It's orange!
Orange 25! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Décollage.
What do you think?
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If it was methane, it would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You read? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Good evening and welcome to NSF's livestream of the Starlink Group 6-23 mission. As you may be used to at this point, as there are several of these a week, today we will launch 22 Starlink V2 mini satellites into a low Earth orbit from Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. We'll get more into the specifics of this mission in a second, but for now I'll just point out that the first stage is looking very sooty as it's flying for a 16th time. Not a record, but still a lot. We'll get to that in a minute. I see all the 5x5s in chat, thank you for that. I am your host for tonight's mission, Trevor Sesnick, a writer and editor here at NSF. If you have any questions, please make sure you post them in chat and tag at NASASpaceflight, and it'll be added to our queue, and one of our co-hosts may answer it. Speaking of my co-hosts, joining me tonight is Alex. Alex, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. We had a D-Stag of Ship 25 at Starbase and now Starlink from the Cape. Quite exciting. Chaotic day, I guess.
Yeah, that D-Stack was certainly unexpected earlier. I'm sure we'll have some questions about that. But bringing us these live views from the field is NSF photographer Max Evans. Max, how are you feeling about tonight's launch?
I am actually feeling pretty good. Viewing conditions are wonderful tonight, albeit I am a bit chilly myself, admittedly. But if it does go off tonight, viewing conditions are going to be spectacular.
Yeah, I know you were saying before we went live that weather these last few days has been just about as perfect as it gets, and the 45th's weather report agrees with that, with 95% chance of weather being go for tonight's launch last I looked. And finally, in the background, we have the one, the only, Kevin Michael Reed pulling all of the switches and levers and whatever magic he does. So thank you, Kevin, for your hard work in the background. And with all that out of the way, Alex, could you give us an overview of tonight's launch?
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, this is the Starlink 6-23 mission, again with 22 satellites from Slick 40 in Florida. And this one, it is just as always, launching to the southeast from the Cape, heading into a 293 by 284 kilometer orbit. Actually, the other way around, I should say, 284 by 293 kilometer orbit at 43 degrees inclination. And so the exciting thing today, it's not that it is another Starlink, it is actually the booster. The booster that you see there, as you mentioned, it is very sooty. And well, that's actually another exciting thing, but we'll probably talk about that with Max later. The exciting thing about this booster is that it's flying for a 16th time, and this will make it the third booster already crossing that mark, basically going from 15 all the way to 16, which not a lot of boosters out there have already done. We've had B1058 going to 17 launches, B1060 also did the same to 17 launches, and now it is the time for B1062 to go to 16, and obviously we expect to get it to 17, 18, 19, 20, basically the new mark that, the new milestone that we're hoping for these boosters is 20 launches. So these 15 launches that this booster has already done, I'm gonna speed run through all of this, but basically 2 GPS missions, SVO4 and SVO5, Inspiration 4 and Axiom 1, those 2 crew missions, and then a bunch of Starlinks, 4-5, 4-16, 4-25, 4-27, 4-36, 5-1, 5-4, and 6-7. And then 3 other missions like Nilesat 301, OneWeb 17, and Arabsat 7B. Now, just as usual, this booster is going to be recovered, and it's going to land on a SpaceX's drone ship. Just read the instructions, which is now located about 629 kilometers downrange. The fairing halves, as always, we don't really know if they're reused or not, but if you bet on reuse, you're probably going to win, right? And they're also going to be recovered, and these are going to be recovered by Bob, which previously supported the mission Psyche with Falcon Heavy, so it should carry already those fairing halves from Falcon Heavy, but it can carry up to 2 sets of fairing halves, of pairs of fairing halves. So it can also support this mission, and then it'll come back and then go again out for more missions in the future. So that's pretty much all the stuff. We are right now waiting for any indication of fueling. I think I'm starting to see some frost on the liquid oxygen of the booster, so that will indicate that at least that liquid oxygen is already underway, loading onto the booster. Basically, propellant load starts at about T-minus 35 minutes, so they're already well underway for that. So, yeah, let's hit the other one. I'm sure we'll probably have some questions about the other exciting stuff that we see today here.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the questions that I'll start off with for Max is that tower is starting to look pretty tall. So could you give us a quick update on the construction of the crew access tower at Slick 40?
I sure can. So as of today, we just noticed that the 4th and final segment for the crew access tower at Slick 40 was just stacked. So I guess in terms of just sheer looks from this perspective, the crew access tower at Slick 40 is at full height, which is pretty exciting. The crew access arm should be following here pretty soon, hopefully. And of course, SpaceX is adding this crew access tower to Slick 40 to add redundancy for both NASA crews, and I guess also it would also help supplement their private crews for Axiom and Polaris and such. But yeah, Slick 40 is looking very, very different compared to how it looked a few months ago.
Yeah, I also think it's quite remarkable that SpaceX has built this entire tower with very little changes that they had to make to their launch schedule. They've been launching roughly every 4 days from the pad while building the tower and doing all of the normal refurbishment. It's been impressive to watch.
It really has. And also this tower has gone up in what, a month and a half, which is remarkably quick.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how they decorate it, see if they put the black glass and whatnot that they have on Launch Complex 39A on this tower as well. Let's see. I'm going to hit some support real quick. Skull Keydre became a Capcom member. Thank you for your support and welcome to the Discord server. I hope to see your name in there and become part of that awesome community that we have. Eric also became a Capcom member, so see you there as well. Nova Raptor TV upgraded to Capcom. Kari became a PadRed member, and someone, a very specific name, became a PadRed member. Jim Cavett gifted 1 Red Team membership, and another gifted Red Team membership here from Brave Shoe. So if you guys received those, make sure you thank that person in chat, and thank you for gifting those. It is what allows us to do, it's what allows us what we love to do, so thank you very much. And we have a super chat from Musical Wolves. Alex, here's a good one for you. Since the T0 was adjusted by 49 minutes, will it still launch to the same orbital plane as it would have at the original T0?
No, when they target a different T0, they basically are targeting a different plane, but they can adjust that by just moving basically waiting around the satellites a bit in orbit. So I explained this a while ago that when they raise the orbit of the satellites, they have an intermediate orbit around 350 kilometers high up. It is not the final orbit. The final orbit is about 530 kilometers up. So they wait down there because the shape of the Earth, again, it's not flat, just as I mentioned the last time that I explained this. It's not flat, it is round, but it is not perfectly spherical. And so what that means is that there's a little bit of a tug in the sort of direction the orbit, basically the orbit changes due to that effect. And so the orbit changes in such a way that it rotates around the poles. And so you basically have the ellipse of the orbit, but that ellipse can be rotating around the whole Earth. And so what that means is that if that rotation changes relative to the altitude. So depending on your altitude, you can change how that changes. And that process of being able to change where you're inserting your satellite, what plane you're targeting, that's called the phasing. So basically you put it on that 350 kilometer orbit, not only to check out the satellites, but also to phase them and be able to precisely align them with a plane that they need to go into. So even though they might target a different T0 and a different plane, therefore, because as you target a different window, you're targeting a different plane, that doesn't mean that they can just go back to the other one if they can. And frankly, there's probably dozens and dozens of different orbital planes that they can target. So they have quite a free way there to be able to go into their desired orbit. I don't think they really have a lot of problems with that, but we don't have a lot of insights into this. I guess we need to make like a whole orbital parameters or orbital adjustments kind of video or something to explain all of these things, because without any fancy graphics, it's really hard to explain how all of this works.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic answer, and I even learned stuff in that. So, Alex, thank you for that. On screen right now, you can see the closers for today's launch. You can see right around the launch pad, and then the eastern trajectory, and then where the booster will land. So, as usual for these Starlink missions, it will be flying on the descending node to the east, which is usual nowadays, but it used to be pretty rare since most of the launches, or most of the Starlink launches, used to go on the ascending node. Then after, that Kevin read my mind perfectly. Following the 2 burns that the second stage will conduct to place the satellites into the orbit that Alex mentioned a few minutes ago. After that, it will perform a 3rd burn and deorbit itself, and there you can see where it is expected to break up and splash down in the Indian Ocean. Let's see. Max, here's a good question for you. Angry American is asking, what are the chances of a jellyfish tonight?
If it had launched at the previous T0 between 7 and 8, I would say that the chances were a lot higher. But unfortunately for this window, I don't think we are going to get one. Even though skies are clear and the moon is technically out, it's a very, very thin crescent right now, and it's low on the horizon. So I think tonight we are just going to get the standard viewing in terms of light and conditions tonight.
Yeah. Those are always gorgeous. It's kind of a shame they pushed it back a bit, but at least launches are fairly common now, so I'm sure we'll see one before too long. Let's see. So Alex, I'm going to give you kind of 2 questions in one. Ryan is asking, they're related, I promise. How many flights can a booster be used for? And then James is asking, what is the average turnaround time for a booster to fly again after a launch?
Yeah, so right now, the amount of times that they're trying to get with these boosters, the amount of flights, it is about 20. I don't know about the average turnaround time because it changes from booster to booster. But for example, for this booster, this turnaround time, it is, I have the exact number in front of me right now. So it will be 81 days, 20 hours, and 38 minutes. That will be the sort of turnaround time for this booster for this mission. But the average, it depends. Newer boosters are being turned around a bit faster. Their turnaround times are about 50 days, whereas these older boosters are around 60 to 70 days. So they are a bit more slower with those because they are older. So first, they were at a time where SpaceX hadn't launched a lot of used boosters. Plus, they're older, so they don't incorporate all of the new stuff that they have been introducing on the newer boosters to be able to turn them around faster. In this case, this turnaround for the 16th flight it is the fastest because the other two spent a long while after their 15th flight. B-1058 and B-1060 were taken apart away from the whole fleet, and so they were basically studied well in depth to be able to certify these boosters for 20 flights. But now that they have done that with those two boosters, every other booster could just simply be, turn around and refurbished just as always, because they have already certified that the boosters can go to 20 flights just as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the status right now of how it all is in that realm.
Yes, then Brian is also curious, how many times can a fairing be reused right now?
Right now, well, the last thing that we know publicly, because it's been like a month and a half since we've known anything about the fairings. The last time we heard 15 flights, not 15, excuse me, 11 flights, but they were targeting 15 for the fairings. So I'm not sure though. I'm not sure how many flights they have already, like what's the new record or anything like it, because they don't really talk about it a lot. So, I mean, not a lot, like not even talk at all.
Yeah, I've always been somewhat annoyed by how little SpaceX publishes about their fairing recovery, because they used to publish the exact missions that each fairing half flew, and then they stopped doing that, but they would at least tell us how many times each one flew, and then they stopped putting that on their website, and they would just say it during stream, and then now there's no commentary on stream at all. So, yeah, sadly, we don't know, but we can assume that they'll probably keep going up to around 15 flights or more.
Hey, I see the countdown timeline is coming up, and that is because in about about 20 seconds, we're gonna see that T-minus 20-minute vent. As put there is the LOX chill down vent, basically the way that SpaceX has to be able to cool down the liquid oxygen line to the second stage. So that should be appearing in just a few seconds.
Yeah, let's see.
Just a few more. There we go.
There she goes.
So that means they are targeting the top of the minute, if I remember correctly.
Yep, 00.
Yeah.
8:39:00 p.m. Eastern Time.
Very nice. While we watch this, the best vent, as many of our viewers like to call it, I'm going to go through a few more pieces of support. This is a great question from Austin, who is celebrating his 14th month as a launch director. So, first of all, thank you very much for being at our top level of support for that long. That is amazing, and as Jack would say, I have no words. But they're asking, or they say, great coverage as always, y'all. Been wondering, anyone here know the main difference between a notice to Marinor and the Marine Safety Information Bulletin? Always appreciated the commentary, thanks.
Well, one of them, the MSIB is basically like a bulletin that they made. There's a difference, but it's quite difficult to explain without being an actual person. I just basically get some of these, like the NOTMARs, in this case, the navigational hazard warnings, which are type of NOTMARs. So within NOTMARs, there are multiple different of NOTMARs. There are local notice to mariners. There are navigational warnings. There are things like these MSIBs are a type of NOTMAR. The only difference is that the MSIBs are basically just like a bulletin, like the name suggests, whereas the NOTMAR is just any kind of notice to mariners, and so it's like the thing that encompasses everything below it, right? It's like an umbrella that covers all of the stuff underneath it. And so underneath it can be MSIBs, local notice to mariners, navigational hazard warnings, all of this stuff, including, for example, things like, just the Coast Guard radioing people in a boat, hey, get out of that place because that place is coordinated or whatever, like you cannot go into that place. So that, for example, is an OTMAR.
Yeah, good answer. Thanks for that, Alex. Here's a fun question from Eternal Swordsman, a regular here celebrating their 7th month at Capcom. Max, I'm going to give this to you. If you were given a spot on Crew Dragon, what would your 0G indicator be?
Max talking while muted.
Yeah, I suspect Max is talking while muted.
Forgive me, gentlemen. I was out. I was fumbling with some camera stuff. But can you talk about the question again, please?
Yeah, of course. It's just a fun one. If you had a spot on Crew Dragon, what would your 0G indicator be?
Oh boy, that's a good one. I think the default answer to that for me personally would be a camera. But if it has to be a stuffed animal or like a stuffed something, I don't even know. That's really tricky. I've never thought about that before. I don't know at this moment in time. I think my default answer would be a camera.
All right, I think that's a good answer. Certainly a very useful 0G indicator. Going through a bit more support, Bideford, another regular, donated 10 Red Team memberships, so thank you very much for that.
Oh, there we go. The vent has stopped. That means liquid oxygen load has begun on the second stage. So we
Yeah.
can tick off another one.
Richard with a 20 euros or 20 pounds super chat. Got my fingers crossed for you folks. Well, thank you very much for your support, and thank you for the kind words. Blackhawk gifted another Red Team membership, and we have a message. Happy International Caps Lock Day. I really hope it's not actually Caps Lock Day. Then Jay Gunpla, celebrating his 30th month as COPCAM, saying, almost 3 years of awesome coverage. Keep up the awesome work and let's light this candle. I think we can all agree with that. Shannon gifted another 5 Red Team memberships, and Musical Wolves with yet another super chat asking, is it considered a hop for the booster? I would say it's a little bit more than a hop. I think I would say no, it's more than that.
It'd be a very long, elaborate hop.
Yeah. Let's see. Max, here's a question for you, since you are the one who gets to be outside, whether it's hot or cold, whether there are mosquitoes or no mosquitoes. Not a big deal given launches tend to happen close to the equator, but would there be many major hurdles in having a launch in cold weather, all other conditions being the same?
Besides the obvious location on the globe in terms of a geopositioning, weather-wise, I guess it would depend on the fuel used and how the rocket and the surrounding infrastructure are constructed. Because as we know, Russia flies the Soyuz out of Plesetsk and that place, and Angara as well, which can be absolutely frighteningly cold in the winter. So I guess that would depend heavily on the propellant used and the rocket's construction.
Yeah. Ooh, this is a good question because we actually just got an answer to this from SpaceX officials, I believe yesterday. And November is asking, why are Vandy launches usually from night nowadays? Alex, why is that?
Oh yeah, so apparently there's some kind of beach that is downrange from the launch pad. This also explains a lot of things that I will not go into details right now because I don't think we have the time. It's like 13 minutes to launch. It will take a lot more time than that to explain. But basically, what apparently happens is that there's a beach downrange out of basically underneath of the trajectory, and so apparently they launch at night because that's when it's closed. So they don't need to clear the area or worry about people being there in terms of the safety of people and things like that for the FAA and all of that, because if otherwise they will be worried about that kind of stuff if they had to do any sort of study and have to have the FAA review it and all of that, then that will also mean that probably they will not be totally focused on the review of Starship's launch license. So, or at least they kind of worry about that stuff. So they're like, yeah, no, we're launching during the night. It is closed. It is nice. And we're okay with that. So that's basically what they're doing right now, where they're launching during the night because that beach is just closed. There's not going to be anyone there.
Yeah, Berger and several others released some more comments about this today, and they were super interesting, talking about how, in SpaceX's opinion, the FAA is very, very understaffed right now. So they're testifying to Congress at some point this week, if I remember correctly,
Tomorrow.
tomorrow, advocating for more funding, for more personnel at the FAA, because they're worried about, as the number of launches increases and as the number of launch vehicles and whatnot, that their bottlenecks are going to become a bigger problem than they already are. So
Yeah.
it's super interesting.
Yeah, the hearing tomorrow it's a bit more like it's larger than that. It is about human spaceflight in general, commercial human spaceflight, because the FAA has this sort of moratorium on having to impose any rules on human spaceflight. The reason behind that is because there's not a lot of experience in flying humans, right? And so trying to put rules and regulations into doing that, sort of that doesn't make sense yet because there's not really any sort of experience on what kind of rules and what kind of regulations you put in place, right? And so there's been all of this talk about delaying that because there was a deadline that was up to October 1st, 2023, that was delayed to January 1st, 2024. Now, Congress is trying to prepare to delay that, but they're proposing 2028. They're trying to get the opinion of Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, and SpaceX. That is what the whole hearing is going to be about, basically. It's going to be all three companies, representatives from three companies, just saying, hey, we fly humans to space. This is what we think. And one of the things that SpaceX is going to pressure for is let's get more staff for the FAA so they can do more things, because you're trying to put more regulations into them. Like, yeah, sure, you're delaying to 2028 probably, but by then, if you put more regulations, they need to be more staffed. Because heck, they're flying 100 times with Falcon 9. They're wanting to fly many more times with the Starship. They're trying to get that launch license, and they're not the only ones flying. So, yeah, they're trying to get that point across, basically.
Yeah, and on that note, the Hoff is wondering when is the next launch from Vandenberg. And the good news is you will not have to wait long, because it is currently scheduled for Saturday, October 21st at 12:19 a.m. Mountain Time. So, sorry, I don't have the UTC, I guess. That
I
would
have the
be
UTC.
6:19 UTC.
Exactly. 6:19 UTC on October 21st. It will be October 20th at 11:19 p.m. Pacific time.
Very nice. DA Swanson with the question that we always answer. Alex, could you just walk us through how many working Starlink satellites there are on orbit?
Oh boy, you should have told me this before.
Oh.
'Cause otherwise, yeah, I don't have it in front of me right now, this moment.
I do.
So I need to find it.
There are 4,905 Starlink satellites on orbit.
Okay, yeah, and they have launched 5,265, with 360 having re-entered already.
Exactly. Let's see. So, we have a question here, Max, for you. Do we know what the first payload on Starship will be? It'll probably be Starlink, but I hope that they take after the Falcon Heavy demo and put a Cybertruck as the payload. Do we have any indication of what it'll be yet?
I guess that would depend, first of all, on the size of the cargo doors on ship. I think the first payload overall may just be some Starlink V2 full-size like demos as maybe a weight sim. But to get fun about it, I mean, to be honest with you, they can do almost anything they want if they can fit whatever payload they want inside those cargo doors. But my bet is probably just putting on some Starlink V2 demos. But I guess we will have to wait and find out, won't we?
Yeah, sadly, I agree. Even though it'd be way more fun to put another car into space. Um, we'll go through a few more pieces of support. Robbie, celebrating their 20th month as Capcom, says, "Thank you for the great stream as always. Waiting to get closer to T0 to clock out for lunch and head outside to watch it from Orlando. Stay awesome, y'all." Well, I hope in 7 minutes are able to do that and can watch it live. That would be awesome. And with that, there are some events coming up. Alex, what is Falcon 9 going to do in the next 7 minutes?
Yeah, so right now we are at T-minus 7 minutes and counting. Falcon 9 should be already well underway with propellant load. One of the things that they are performing right now is the chill down of the engines on the booster. So the engines run on liquid oxygen as the oxidizer, and it is very, very cold. So when you flow it at the high pressures and high flows of when it is igniting, you basically don't want that to happen with an engine that is at room temperature, right? You don't want that. So what they do is basically they flow a little bit of that liquid oxygen, a very low flow, very low pressure, to be able to condition the engine to lower its temperature, so that when they flow the liquid oxygen at high pressures and high flows, then it is really good to go and doesn't create bubbles or cavities or anything like it that might damage the pumps. Now, another thing that they are doing right now is also wrapping up fuel load on the booster. So we had RP1, which is the fuel wrapping up load on the second stage about 15 minutes ago. Now it is the time for the booster. And so the next thing that we should see is also the retraction of the Stromback, as the timeline there on the left. You can see there what sort of remaining time is for that event. And so, yeah, 5 minutes, 40 seconds to go. Hopefully we have a launch.
Yeah, and it looks like a gorgeous night. Max, is weather still as gorgeous as it was earlier?
If anything, it's getting better and colder. I sound like an absolute like a typical like somebody from Florida. You know, it's currently 63 degrees outside with a bit of a southward breeze, and I'm literally shivering. I feel I feel so out of place. But yes, weather is absolutely gorgeous. A few low-level clouds here, but they are so small and so scattered, and they're all based toward the east. Plenty of stars out, not a lot of haze out, so tonight should be an absolute stunner.
Awesome, yeah, looking forward to it. How many launches will this be for you? Because you're over 100 now, right?
Oh yeah. Oh boy. I think this will be 100, including anomalies. I think this will be 119.
Wow.
But I'll have to go back and check my chart for that one, because I have a chart for every single launch I've seen and a whole bunch of various details that go along with it.
Wow.
But it's around 119 or so.
Wow, I am jealous. I tried to go down to Florida about a year and a half ago. There were 3 launches scheduled for while I was there, and the weather looked good when we booked and everything, and all 3 of them got delayed, and I was not able to see any. But whatever.
That's typically how it goes if you're on vacation, unfortunately. See, the way I solved that problem was I just moved here, so you might want to look into that.
Yeah. Now people in the back channel are comparing how many launches they've been to. Anyway, Max, enjoy the launch, and thank you very much. Talk to you after.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll see you on the other side.
All right, Alex, with just a few more minutes to go until liftoff, we have a question about how much refurbishment is done between Falcon 9 flights, like engine replacements, cleaning, type of repairs, etc.
I don't think they touch much the boosters. We really don't have any kind of source, though. They probably inspect things like the welds, the engines, try to clean up things that might have clogs and things like that. But otherwise, it's really clean. It's not really too much of an effort, I think.
Yeah. Real quick, we have a super chat from Shannon and Jeff saying, "My husband Jeff is there watching with his friends on his motorcycle, visiting from Indiana. Well, you're hopefully in about 2 minutes he'll be able to see a launch. That would be awesome. Hope they enjoy that. Man on Mars with an interesting question. What is the deepest space mission that is launched on Falcon 9? DART? And then a question about how much it could push into the solar system. Alex, do you
On Falcon
know?
9, yeah, DART. Falcon Heavy was Psyche. Psyche went way far away.
Yeah. Let's see. And we are currently at the end of stage 2 LOX load. So now the next big event will be at T-minus 1 minute when Falcon 9 will enter startup and the tanks will begin pressurization for flight. Real
Indeed.
quick, we have a 26-month Red Team member from a slightly, Jack would like this username, Big Massive Dump, saying, "Let's go Starlink." Well, thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. Axie,
Just
one of
heard
our...
the call out that they have already wrapped out liquid oxygen load on the second stage, and that's the reason for that big vent that you see from the Stromback. They are cleaning out and purging the line as they prepare for startup.
Yeah. Axie, one of our mods, says, "Go Internet Rocket Go. Got to see B1019 up close today. So stoked." Yeah, that is an awesome exhibit and glad you got to see it. And thank you for moderating our streams and being an active member. We love you. And with that, we are a minute away from launch. And as you can see, we have feeds up that show that the payload fairing is in fact flight proven. You can tell from the soot. And then there's an awesome shot of the booster being all frosty from the liquid oxygen on board. Let's see. We are 30 seconds away from launch and coming up
Launch
on...
trajectories go for launch.
Thank you for that. Pay attention to the bottom of the rocket. At T-minus 3 seconds or so, there'll be a green flash, which will be the T-TEB igniting the engines. That process takes about 3 seconds for all 9 engines to ignite and for them to reach full power. The vehicle will then perform some checks, and if all engines are nominal, the vehicle will lift off in 5 seconds. There's that flash. And we have liftoff. It has cleared the tower and we will now be quiet so you can enjoy the audio.
Well, that was quite a launch. We are approaching MECO time here. You can see that really great expansion of the exhaust on the 9 Merlin 1, the engines on the booster. And we should be just a few seconds away from MECO main engine cutoff.
Yep,
And there we go.
There's
That's
MECO. And then now we have stage separation of the first and second stage with that pusher in the middle. And then there are several others on the outside of the vehicle. Let's see, and there's stage separation, and now we will see ignition of stage 2 in an event known as second engine start 1. And we can now see that on the right hand side that looks to be successful, and the ring stiffener successfully fell off as expected. That was a gorgeous liftoff. I may or may not have accidentally been talking while muted, but the sound was awesome. So Alex, now that we are through first stage flight and the fairings should have been deployed by now. Yep. What are we expecting in the next few minutes with the booster?
Yeah, so the booster is, continuing on its own trajectory, because it still has a bit of momentum, but now it's gonna approach apogee. Coincidentally, that apogee is reached at about 4 minutes and 20 seconds. I don't know if that's on purpose or not, but that is certainly a good track that I'm seeing here right now on our cameras, because I think that's our camera, right? So yeah, it should reach apogee around 20 seconds from now, I should say, and then it's gonna come down. It's gonna do its entry burn, and that entry burn is gonna be 131. That means it is gonna ignite first the center engine, then 2 outer engines. It's gonna run on those 3 engines for a little bit, for about 15 seconds or so, and then it's gonna shut down the 2 outer engines, and then the center engine. So it's gonna be, that's why we call it 131, because it's 1, 3, and then 1 engine at the end. And so that is pretty much how it is doing. The second stage continues to go into orbit with those 22 Starlink V2 mini satellites, and all seems to go nominal so far. And the tracking continues. We're still tracking that second stage with our ground cameras.
Yeah, fantastic work, Max. So as Alex was saying, the first stage entry burn is expected to begin at T plus 6 minutes and 8 seconds, so a little over a minute from now. And that burn will last 24 seconds until T plus 6 minutes and 32 seconds. One thing to note is the times SpaceX publishes are just estimates, and actually that burn length is determined by onboard sensors, which is why it's fairly often to see these burns being a little bit shorter than SpaceX predicts. Then after that, the landing burn will begin at T plus 8 minutes and 7 seconds.
We're at T plus 5 minutes and a half, and we're still tracking that second stage. I wonder if we're going to be able to track it all the way to SECO, to second engine cutoff.
Yeah, this is amazing. And people in chat are noticing, like, CD Night Cape Town come to thank you so much for fantastic camera work. And you're welcome, but that is all Max.
It is super hard to track these things because it's like a really small dot in the sky and flying very, very fast.
Yeah. Yeah, Max, that was great. And we're now coming up on, or we should be in, at this point, the first stage entry burn. And there we have it.
There we go.
As Alex said, this is a 131 burn, so right now you can see there's kind of a line of flames, so it's the 3-engine portion, and then it'll briefly go down to just a single engine before completely shutting down.
And this is the 16th time this booster is doing this, so it's quite an experienced booster.
It's the 3rd most experienced in the fleet.
You
And there we
definitely
have
can
successful
bet.
shutdown.
Is that our ground camera?
Yeah.
We're still tracking it. Wow.
This is awesome. Yeah, and Michael also commenting, such amazing views. Thanks for all the great work, NSF team. Well, thank you for viewing, Michael. We really appreciate it.
I was gonna say that I hope that booster has read the instructions. You know.
So I wonder, with that pun, Alex, what boost or what drone ship is this booster landing on?
I wonder. Yeah, it's just read the instructions. It actually should be in view really shortly through the. It's normally on the left. It's interesting that they always target the reentry that way.
Yeah, looks like it's a little choppy of a downlink from SpaceX today.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, but yeah, that burn
I
again
heard
is
transonic, so it's rolling good.
and that burn is expected in about 15 seconds. T plus 8 minutes coming up on landing burn and SE
I can
or
already see
Seco 1.
the light. There we
Yep.
go. From
There's
the
There is the landing burn. And again, this is just the center Merlin engine on the booster. And there's just read the instructions. And the booster did just read the instructions, and that marks SpaceX's 236th landing and 162nd consecutive landing. We're also coming up on Seco 1. Looks like we may not have footage of it, but that should have happened by now. The second stage and Starlink payload will now coast for approximately 45 minutes before the second stage engine will ignite for a second time for just a few seconds, and then it'll shut down, and then they'll deploy the stack of 22 Starlink satellites at T plus 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 17 seconds. Let's see. And it looks like we have confirmed nominal orbit insertion. Those are those
Falcon
words we
9.
always like to hear.
Indeed, Falcon 9 doing what it does best, putting things into orbit, landing the booster back down into the drone ship, and getting used again. Because now that baby is gonna go through refurbishment. It's gonna go back first to the coast, probably in a 3-4 days, and then it's gonna go through Hangar X, getting refurbished and flown again, hopefully. So yeah.
Yeah, so Max, first of all, thank you very much for that amazing tracking. Holy cow. And second, how was it? Oh, maybe he's talking while muted again.
That is a curse for everyone.
Sorry, gentlemen. I was once again fiddling with cameras and some footage that I got. But my goodness, that was, there's something about these colder conditions and the atmosphere doing what it's doing in these conditions that adds so much to the experience. With the air being cooler and thicker, it carries the sound a lot better, and that was incredibly punchy here tonight. And the VAB was very loud. But we heard it quite a long ways up, even up to stage separation.
Wow.
And it was loud enough to where, once again, it's par for the course for every single launch here, especially at night when no one else is here. But we hear about 3 or 4 gators bellowing every single time because they're angry about being woken up, I guess. But overall, my goodness, that was a stunner. And you guys may have seen on stream. I was able to follow the second stage almost all the way down to the horizon, and it was clear enough tonight as well that we saw entry burn from here before it went below the trees. So overall, tonight was an easy 10 out of 10.
Yeah, seriously, great work with that camera. That was awesome to watch. Real quick, I'll just go through some support that came in during the launch. ARP says, when is the next Falcon Heavy launch? I need to take time off work to go see it.
Well, I can help you with that, because the next Falcon Heavy will launch the USSF 52 mission, currently scheduled for no earlier than November 30th.
Is that expected to be dual RTLS?
Yes, it is going to be
Ooh.
RTLS for the boosters, so that's going to be fun.
That is exciting. Then Brandon became a Capcom member, so see you in our Discord. Make sure to tag Jack with like bacon or something like that, just to mess with him. But hope you enjoy it there. It's an awesome place, and welcome. Let's see. Toad with a 35-month Capcom membership milestone says almost 3 years. I've been watching too many rocket launches. Love the broadcast. Well, it is remarkable how many launches there have been in the last 3 years. So
There is
thank you
no
for
such thing as too many. That is an impossible statement.
yeah, but
I
thank
can
you
tell
for
you how
staying with
many
us.
in
And
the
how many,
last 3
Alex?
years. Because, well, this was already the 75th launch for SpaceX this year. Because it's been quite a lot. So in the last 3 years, it's been 167. So that's a lot of launches in 3 years.
Wow. Yeah, is that 167 Falcon 9 launches?
I cannot go into that many detail because I have it all bundled up between Falcon Heavy, Falcon 9, and Starship. So, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but then there have been even more electrons and all that. There's been a lot. It's been quite the time to be a space fan. Another big member milestone here. Corey has been a Capcom member for 30 months and says, "Has it really been 30 months? I love it," in all caps. Thanks, NSF. Well, thank you for your support and for staying with us, and we love it.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It really does. I still cannot believe that it's almost November. Jim Cavett said, gifted 1 Red Team membership, so if you got that, make sure you thank Jim, and thank you for your support. Anon, with his 25-month Red Team membership, said that the exhaust looked a bit engine-rich to him. Did either of you guys notice anything weird about the exhaust?
I don't see anything.
I
that
didn't see
bad.
anything out of the ordinary. If anything, it looked a bit different and a bit more vibrant because the atmosphere is just that much more clear and crisp tonight. So we were able to see it for a lot longer. If anything, we were able to follow as you saw again on tracking, we were able to see the second stage for a lot longer than normal because the atmosphere is so clear. But in terms of the exhaust looking any different due to any potential issues, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I didn't either. So I guess I've seen a bunch of people
Oh,
asking.
they say they're talking about the landing. Well, the landing, if you see any sort of green, that's basically the T-tab being burned off. Because once
Oh,
they
yeah.
land, they sort of let that burn off. They sort of just basically flush it down and let it burn off. Because it's too toxic otherwise.
Yeah. I guess one last question before we wrap up, because I've seen a bunch of people asking about it in chat. And that's just for quick, Alex, emphasis on quick, update on what's going on with Starship now that there's been a destack and it seems kind of uncertain what's going on.
Yeah, we don't really know what's going on with that. It's been destack, but we're not sure what could be the reason. We have a theory that it might be related with the umbilicals on the second stage, but so far we're not fully sure.
Yeah,
there you
but
go.
make sure you stay tuned to our social media and Raptor sites and all of that, as we'll be the first to let you know if we do find something out. Engage in the back channel is saying that workers have been inspecting Ship 25 all afternoon, so perhaps they found something that they weren't super happy with, but as Alex said, we don't have any info on that at this moment. But with that, thank you everyone for joining tonight's stream. First of all, Alex, thank you for being on and giving us your fantastic answers as always.
It's been a pleasure. Hope to see you all next time. I don't know when it is the next time that I'll see you, but the next launch, at least from the Cape, it's gonna be in just about 4 days again, because they're launching pretty much every 4 days. That's gonna be Starlink 624 on the 21st at 10:16 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah.
Then also with us was Max. Max, thank you for those awesome shots tonight. You did a seriously amazing job.
Thank you, Trevor. And thank you very much to everyone else for coming along tonight. It's been a pleasure as always. these views just never get old over here. And so we will see you all next time.
Yeah, then in the background we've had Mr. Kevin Michael Reed. Kevin, thank you for doing everything you do in the background. And I have been your host, Trevor Sesnick, writer and editor here at NSF. And thank you all for watching, and as Alex said, there'll be another one soon. Have a good one, guys.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Probably not. Roger, planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside at speed off. Say again, at speed off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Décollage. Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You read? We don't need any more of that.